Station gang, welcome back to Ink and Insights, our weekly comic book highlight breakdown show. I'm coming to you live tonight from the phone, so pardon my technical difficulties. My laptop gave me the blue screen of death, and it's been trying. It's been trying. So yeah, searching all day for headphones and mic, trying to make this whole thing work. But we're here tonight, man. Had to be here with the family. So, station, hope everybody out there in TV land is having a good week. Of course, I'm joined by my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who's really been keeping the show on rails here the past couple months. Not going to front at all. I'm going to break kayfabe there a little bit, but yeah, my boy E from the Nine Panel Grid, E Station brother. How are you? Good to see you, my man.
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. It's been a very chill day, which I appreciated. It's given me a lot of opportunity to kind of just kick back, enjoy some comics, and not stress over anything. It's been awesome. A very nice juxtaposition to your
Yeah,
freaking day,
opposite
dude.
ends of the opposite ends of the poles there. Yeah, North and South Pole for sure. But yeah, hell yeah, dude. But regardless, man, always happy to be here with you talking comics. We got it. Got another great set of issues to talk about. Some good news. But we got a guest tonight, dude. We got one of the homies coming through. He's usually in the chat every week. Longtime supporter of the show. He's also making great content, doing weekly reviews over on his channel. So without further ado, let's bring in the homie Jason from DC Patrol Station. Jason, welcome to the show, bro. Thank you for coming through and making time for us. How are you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing well, and yourself? Thanks for having me.
Oh man, hell yeah, man. We had to. Like as I said, you're a man of great taste. You've been doing reviews for a minute, always in the chat with us every week. We had to have you on, so thank you for coming through, dude. How's your week been?
It's been a good week. Today was a busy day. I'm a little bit with you on this one, Stu, but a good day nonetheless. I
Yeah,
got my
get E out of
comics.
here, man.
I stole all the chill from
Absolutely.
everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. You deserve it. You deserve some chill.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, but Grommets, yeah, it's the finale. We're going to be talking about it tonight. I can't wait to get into it here in a little bit. But yeah, man, Remender doing amazing things in the comic book game as always, per usual. But yeah, we'll get into that in a bit. E, do you want to go ahead and kick off the first little bit of news we got for tonight, though?
Yeah, here, let's jump into the first bit we got, which is going to be Scott Snyder, even greater than Scott Snyder, but Scott Snyder specifically had talked a lot about the Absolute Universe, which he is spearheading kind of primarily with Joshua Williamson. He had a podcast that he was doing with Sal over at Comic Pop where there were some things, some details that slipped here that really made us even more excited for what the Absolute Universe is going to be doing and what they're bringing forth. And on top of that, even outside of that interview, we had learned that Hayden Sherman had just recently signed an exclusive contract with DC Comics, meaning that they are going to be the artist on Absolute Wonder Woman here for a good long time. I'm so freaking excited about this. If you guys don't
Yeah.
mind me taking the reins and jumping in here and kind of giving my opinion on it, I'm extraordinarily excited about this, man. Like Absolute Wonder Woman to me is not only the best comic book in the Absolute Universe, it might be in my top 5 comic books right now coming out being released in 2025. And if I were a betting man, I would always be putting my money on the team that is Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman. I think that every single thing that they're putting out, both together and separately, are some of the finest bits of comic book, that we get each and every week. And this even kind of stems because, Absolute Wonder Woman came out in 2024. A lot of us were even talking about that book at that point. It's like, do we kind of put it on a best of the year list? Is it worthy with like just a couple issues out? Some people made the bold proclamation. Yes, it was absolutely worthy. They put it on there. I can say firmly without a shadow of a doubt, 2025, it has to be in the conversation. It's extraordinary. But on
Yeah.
top of that, the universe itself is so freaking fun. And from what we found out from Scott Snyder's interview here is that he is in it for the long haul. He is signed up with DC Comics and he is re-upped on his contract to stay along with them, keep spearheading this absolute universe. And they even spoke about kind of what the end game of the first phase of this time period means, which kind of like puts a cap on the dark side era, kind of the catalyst for the absolute universe, and what comes after that. So, Stu, I'll kick it up to you first here, man, because you were the one that put me onto the interview. So thank you for that first off. But dude, like, how hyped are you?
Super hype, dude. Like I think they continue to, move, just carry the industry and themselves as a company in the right direction. I think this is what we want as fans and as readers of these books that we love, and to see them kind of lock up the future makes me really excited for the next couple of years. All this enormous talent, and getting artists like Jagoda and Sherman is like on exclusive contracts for years at a time is no small task. So,
Yeah.
salute to them. These are two guys that if you had told me a year ago we would be in this position where, these two guys were, not only with DC but on these books and front and center like this, I wouldn't believe you. So it's been such an incredible ride. I think listening to that interview and Snyder talk about the back and forth like he had with people in the industry and shop owners and trying to gauge the temperature before they committed to this thing. Like, would the fans respond if they went all in, pun intended? You know what I mean? And talking about like what's his name, Steve from Third Eye, and how he was telling him, the fan, like, because he was talking about sales slumping in 2022, and the fans are ready for this. And I think it's just been such a great thing for comic books. I think it's they're leading with story, with quality first, with artwork and good writing, and we're responding to that and voting with our dollar, and like that back and forth, that synergy, I think is going to, what Skybound's doing, I think is going to continue to speak to and inform other things in the industry. So I think it's a beautiful piece of news to have, especially as a bright ray of hope when we have the specter of tariffs and all that on the on the opposite end, and all the uncertainty with brick and mortars and LCSs, and how that's going to affect the industry. So this was incredibly encouraging to hear, and yeah, dude, just put a smile on my face. They're doing some amazing things over there, DC.
Yeah, well said, and I absolutely agree. Jason, the man formerly known as DC Patrol, right? We already know you're a fan here, but the man behind the Comic Patrol. Tell us what your thoughts are, man. How are you enjoying the Absolute Universe, and what's your thoughts on knowing that this is going to continue on here for a good long while?
I'm excited, but initially I'm a little bit torn because I like sort of the classic stuff. So for me, it was a little bit, I don't know, scary in a way to go, all right, this is going to continue. This isn't just a short stint. This isn't just a quarter in the bucket, whatever that expression is. This is something that they're really going with. And I think, as Stu was saying, that's a good thing. Whatever's going to help comics, whatever's going to help it grow. They still have those comics there. They still have the old things that I like, and that's still going. So that's good. And if the Absolute Universe or whatever else is going on out there that can sell, that's excellent. That's what we want. And the books have been really good. Like I didn't care for the Green Lantern one too much, but everything else has been really, really solid. And even that's solid. It's just, not my favorite.
Yeah, I hear that. And actually, you bring up a good point on that too. And it was another aspect of the interview when he was talking with Sal as well. That was actually really, really encouraging, because I think we're all going to like the newness that is the Absolute Universe. One of the things they talked about is the pivot point, though. They're having conversations like, okay, year one was all about Absolute Universe. We really have to drive the interest and make sure that it's worthwhile to get people really excited in it.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't, they didn't call it the Absolute Universe Initiative. They called it DC All In. And the reason behind that is because the pivot point is going to happen now. And they're talking about the plans to say year 1 was Absolute. Year 2 is going to refocus back on DC Prime, the classic, the original universe. And it's really going to make that bold and exciting and make that now the focal point of all the intermixing of what's happening here in that post Darkseid's death thing that happened, however they wrap that up, right? The resolution on that. So we're going to be, it sounds to me like we're going to be eating good regardless. We're really going to be having a lot of fun in the DC proper when that time is right, even though what we're getting right now is still pretty darn amazing.
I agree. Yeah, I'm eating well. I'm loving it.
There we go.
It's been so great across, like, DC, what's been your favorite Absolute book so far? Out of curiosity.
Wonder Woman, all the way. I mean, it's just everything about it, the world building, the art, just the way that the story is told, loving it. But, Absolute Superman, really coming up strong. I did not.
Dude, it's like the late sleeper. It's coming up like Usain Bolt in the final leg. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that one's really making a play for it. Yeah, I feel like Snyder for all the gusto that Absolute Batman had coming out of the gate is kind of like in danger of playing catch up here, because like Absolute Wonder Woman has just blown everything else away, and then Absolute Superman is really. And it's kind of like the second act has really come on strong. So.
Martian Manhunter is cool. Even Flash.
Yeah. Oh my god, Martian Manhunter is
wild. It's wild. I wasn't going to pick up Flash. I wasn't even going to do it. And now here I am. I'm still getting them. It's good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a, I don't know, man. I've said this before. I'm a Marvel zombie through and through, and I'll own it and I'll accept it. But man, is DC just putting out the best of the big 2 comics. They're putting out the best superhero comics right here and right now. It's really exciting when a person that is not inherently already a fan of that can dive in, like, head first and just, like, I don't know, just really, really dig into what they're doing here. Before we get too far into this, though, why don't we say hello to a couple people that have joined us in the chat here, mostly probably because of Comic Patrol. I have a feeling that they're here to see, the man of the hour. But we're going to start off with Rogue Collecting saying, "What up, Rogue? Always good to see you, man."
Rogue, what up, bro?
We got Simpleton hanging with us in the downtime between making those hardcovers. We appreciate you, man.
What a dude.
We got Omega Slice hanging with us, man. Omega, great to see you, man. Let's see. We got the moderator extraordinaire. We got to find a better word. I feel like I steal that from everyone because they've all called Christina moderator extraordinaire at this point here. You need like some supreme title. I don't know what that is yet, but man, you're great.
Like First Lady, man. First Lady of the, you know what I mean?
I love that. Yeah, First Lady of Comics right here. Christina Payne.
Seriously, she deserves it.
Oh, here we go. See, like I said, man, they're all coming for Jason here. Simpleton asking, I can't wait to hear DC Patrol's take on Resurrection Man. Not to shine a spotlight on you, but yeah, tell us.
I'm so excited.
I didn't care for it. I just didn't. It was trying way too hard for me. I couldn't do it.
I appreciate that. It's okay. You heard it here first. Jason calls Rom via Try Hard. We're on live stream.
Clip it, folks. Clip
it.
And that's my YouTube career down the drain.
We got James Phelps hanging with us. James Station, nice to see you, man. We got Verno from Blood Splatter Chatter.
Station, bro.
Cool.
Verno, nice seeing you.
Sorry about today.
Yeah, he had the horror trivia show that was going on earlier today. So if you haven't checked that out and you dig on horror, make sure you check out Blood Splatter Chatter for sure.
We'll be back tomorrow at 3.
What video you guys reviewing tomorrow?
Sacred Killing of a Deer, dude. Have you ever seen it? Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman, Barry Keoghan.
No. Okay. Well, dang, I was gonna about to ask you, like, well, what is your opinion? But I should probably just be patient and wait to hear it tomorrow.
Check this out tomorrow. I can't wait to talk about it. Can't wait.
We got Rogue saying Hayden Sherman does some of the best layouts. Yeah, I think it's unargued. Like they just do wild things with the page, whether it's in Absolute Wonder Woman, Into the Unbeing has been fantastic work too. Ooh, that is like some of the most Cronenbergian creepy stuff I've seen. But it's so good.
Yes.
We got Derek Neiman hanging with us. Derek, nice to see you, man. Appreciate it. He's saying, glad to hear Snyder's plans for Absolute. Does DC have a plan for the regular titles? Yes, we did touch on that here. This probably came in before I started talking about it, but yes, there is a plan. What that plan is, we don't necessarily know, but I know it involves Matt Fraction on Batman, and I said it in previous episodes. I'll say it again. Matt, you're still my favorite. I love you. You're the best. Don't let Stu dissuade you of that opinion.
I mean, you talk so much trash about the man. It's kind of crazy, but
dude, Matt Fraction hit me up and he said bow staffs are better than nunchucks. So who's his
Matt Fraction doesn't like Donatello. He's a soft
maybe we're getting deep into the Ink and Insights lore tonight. Apparently, everyone knows Snyder writes a good Batman. But what are your favorite indie titles of his? I am a kind of a noob on the indie side. I've heard Witches is really fantastic, but what about you guys?
Witches is great with Jock. I also really love Canary with Dan Panosian that he did not too recently for Comixology. Scott had a bunch of really good, like those Comixology originals. I really like Clear with Francis Manifold.
That's like the one I was about to say.
Crazy. Man, I don't know. Scott's had some bangers. I know I'm forgetting something. I never got into American Vampire. Did y'all ever read that?
Nope.
No, I totally missed it. I completely forgot about his Comixology work previously. I'm so glad that you brought that one up because I think that those Barnstormers, I think, was the last of the trifecta, right?
Gorgeous.
So, yeah. Oh my God, right?
Jesus.
Yeah. Jason, what about you?
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't read a ton of his indie stuff. Now that we're going through it, I'm like, oh God, I can't think of anything. Undiscovered Country was cool. I eventually popped out, but that was a good one. And Nocturnals?
Nocterra, I think. Yeah, I think
that was cool for a while anyway. But all of it I've stopped, so I don't know. But Clear was good.
Yeah, Clear was awesome here. Rogue, of course. Yeah, here's another one I totally forgot. Loved his work on Dark Spaces. I didn't read Dungeon myself, but I do know that Wildfire was great. Again, with Hayden Sherman doing awesome stuff there. But yeah, I didn't check out Dungeons, so
I need to do as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check those out.
Yeah, so check all those out if you hadn't already. Well, what do you boys say here? You ready to jump into our first title of the night?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about Grommets #7, written by Rick Remender, artwork by Brett Parsons, colors by Moreno Dionisio, and letters by Russ Wooten. Ooh, man, this was this book was super, super delayed. In fact, I think it was like the better part of 6 months delayed. I'll be honest with you guys, though. I would have been okay with it being delayed even further because I wasn't ready to let these characters go. I really wasn't.
I was not ready for the ending.
Yeah.
I literally yelled no on the last page of the book.
I felt the same way. Like, I mean, I don't know our exact ages, but I have the feeling that we are of the same age group, right? We grew up in the same era, and we probably had a heck of a lot of the same experiences that that our friends, let's be honest, these are our friends that we grew up with, right? Rick and Brian right here. We had these experiences with these people in our real lives here. So it did such a great job of like really pulling you in and giving you the vibes, the tones, the feels of that 80s era. Now, granted, this was in California, and so it was very regional, but still it just hit the tones of everything that we kind of experienced and all of the, those watershed moments that you have as you're growing up as a teen in the 80s with all these things, including the heartbreak and the struggles and the very real, hypocrisy that we had to deal with at that time here. In this case, our partially nerdy kind of like counterculture skater kids going up against the jocks and having the cops totally take the jock side and like because they're the state champions of football and everything like that and saying, well, you kids must have instigated it. and then having this wonderful scene take place where they have this like mental moment where it's like, well, what if we just did this to the jocks here? Kale mod their hearts out and, you know, took their skateboards, chopped their heads off. It was a really good introduction to like keep a level of levity to the book and keep it very humorous and not keep the tone light, but, you know, keep it to where it was like still a fun experience, even though these kids are really going through, you know, they're being put through the ringer at this point. What did you guys think of the introduction of this, of the end cap of our series here? And Jason, I'll kick it down to you first.
Exactly that. I was reading along, and because it's been so long, and I didn't revisit, I thought, oh, okay, this is wild. Oh, they're getting revenge. Oh, cool. And I'm like, oh, him hitting him with the skateboard, that looks pretty violent. Like, oh, he might have really hurt someone there. And each panel sort of elevated the cartooniness of it until there's a point where there's like eyes coming out, and like, okay, phew, it's just a dream. Or if not, this is really taking a twist. But yeah, I love that because it really, after such a long time, it reminded you of what the book kind of is. And that's, you know, underdogs rising up, or at least finding each other. And then, you know, just great intro. And then bringing us into that real world of, you know, police and stuff, like getting the real dangers, you know, because a lot of comics are all fictional and deal with crazy adventures, but for real kids, you know, being interviewed by the cops, that's kind of a scary thing. And I don't know how I would handle something like that, but I mean, we've all been through those moments. So to go from that cartooniness right into like, whew, all right, buckle up. But the two of them being together really, you know, they had each other, and that was nice. I liked that element, you know, that
yeah, they deliver.
Find each other.
Yeah, they deliver a really great heartbeat. I'm glad you said rise up too, because one could say maybe, you know, to quote a Black Flag song, maybe they rise above too. Stu, what did you think, man?
Yeah, I echo what you both said about the opening sequence. It was so badass to see like the violence taking place, and you think we're finally getting a retribution. I gotta second what Jason said, especially about the eyes popping out. Like that scene where dude's down on the ground and they can come up and kick him in the face, and his eyes. It's just such a great shot. And then you know you're like, oh man, like what's happening here? And then the icing on the cake is the Kali Ma, right? Like dude goes up, he's got the painted face and the whole nine, and you're like, oh shit, this is different. It's such a beautiful intro. To me, man, the moment I felt the most was well, there was two things. One, I love that line of dialogue in the police station where that real ignorant cop is like, just because you boys don't have a future doesn't mean you're gonna ruin theirs. Like it was such a well written line, but it was also like it just made you hate him even more, right? And then like I love yes, exactly. And like I love, you know, the kind of defeat there. They come out of the police station, they're not like getting ultimate justice on these guys, right? They're kind of gonna they're gonna get away with, you know what I mean? Like that felt very real, very relatable. Also, like when they came out and their parents each threw them in their separate cars, and they had that moment where they share that glance, like, dude, that one, like you're talking about, like I remember when my best friend moved away growing up, man, and that was, you know, just finding out that the timeline had been accelerated and that he was leaving, you know, sooner than expected, and you know, they had no time left. It was crazy, but like, I love how, like you said, we had that gap in publication, and we were waiting around for this one, but I love how they picked it up, the momentum, the pace, the breakneck right from the get go, and then they kind of ease you into the reality of the situation and the emotional stakes. It was great.
Yeah. And, you know, the issue picks up from there as well, where, you know, we get to see the ramifications of the police, you know, the police dragging them in, accusing them of being the instigators of this fight. And then, like you, Stu, like you alluded to in the real life situation, the accelerated time frame of that friendship, you know, deteriorating and possibly being pulled apart. That's what I think the special part of this book is that it really, man, it ping pongs back and forth in a beautiful way between the humorous aspects and the heartfelt, and it delivers on both of those things in a really, really great way. I think that the character of Brian is a catalyst for a lot of that as well, because clearly he is like the headstrong character that, he kind of acts like maybe he's more mature and maybe knows more about life than the Rick character in this book, but clearly doesn't. He's experiencing at the same pace and the same time, but he's just so has like this ever flowing confidence that comes out of him. But that's also the beauty of this book, because what's revealed later on is that they kind of have their last hurrah, right? He takes him out, he calls him out, even though like it's the last day. He's like, dude, we're gonna skate this pipe I found. I spent all day sweeping this up. I prepared it. I got it ready to rock and roll. We're gonna hit this. We're gonna hit our lines just like we would on any old day, and we're gonna forget that tomorrow exists, and we're just gonna do this right. I remember having those experiences with friends as well. It wasn't with skateboards because I had like zero balance whatsoever, but I was like huge into BMX. And like where I grew up, we had a group of friends that, there was like a forest basically right next to this like little small offshoot street that we lived on. And we had our shovels and our chainsaws and like every tool we had basically, where we cleared out huge spaces where we basically made just like an entire dirt track with, like no joke. Like, there were like ramps and like, jumps that we made that were like 2 times the size of like a regular human being standing, like the average like 5'11" person, right? So like we spent days and days and days like manufacturing this and getting it prepared so that we can go jump our bikes over it and stuff. So like the amount of work that goes into this, and him saying he swept it all and got it prepared, I was like, oh my God, does that hit home so hard and so real for me. But it rings true for the loyalty of this character. Again, he was like very much the heart, whereas the Rick character was like, you were kind of like seeing the world through his eyes. The loyalty of Brian really just rung true with me so much, man, because he had his back through thick and thin, regardless of what the circumstances were going to be. Lo and behold, we do get a very nice ending that can kind of conclude and leave us to maybe something else coming down the pipeline. Time will tell on that. What did you guys think of the rest of the issue here? This time, Stu, I'm going to kick it up to you first.
Yeah, dude. Finding the what did they call it, like the snake pipe or whatever for the first time was epic. I love that moment. I love like when they go to like rendezvous with the rest of the group of friends. He's like, "What? How come you haven't told us about it yet?" He's like, "It was a present for him. He's leaving in like 30 minutes." Like, I just love that
Yeah.
that back and forth, and it felt so real and so relatable. Again, like this just is music to those of us that grew up in the 80s and 90s. I think it's just so there's so many core memories here that I think collectively Remender was able to pull from for those of us that grew up in that time period. It's just whether it's cultural things like music or movies or skateboarding and stuff like that, or just how things were back then. It's just been incredible. So I just love like how it gave, like the book gave, it was like what 40 some pages I think this last issue, and it gave that sequence space to breathe, where you just saw these kids skating and enjoying themselves. There was just a couple pages of that, and I love how he was coming towards the end of it. He had all that momentum. He was scared he was going to stop, and then he like ollied it and landed. It was just a beautiful ending. Everything you wanted,
Yeah.
man. So
and they share that celebration too, man. Like he was excited for him hitting the ollie too, man.
Yeah, he's like, I can't stop. He's like, oh shit, you got to ollie it, and it's like, and I love the sound effects, all the clacks, and it was dope. It was just to see kids having fun and how much that meant to me growing up. It was awesome.
Yeah, big time same, man. Jason, how about you, man?
Everything there. That's exactly it. Once we go from the cops, we go to the bedroom, and it's all sort of interior. And then once we see the friends, like Brian and Rick,
Mm-hmm.
once they're outside, he goes by the Taco Bell and it starts to open up more, and then it's all like light colors, and you feel that freedom, that weight is off. They're on their skateboards. We got those pages Stu was talking about where they're just having fun, and wasn't that it? Like, I remember like riding through the woods on my bike with my friends, and we would just look for jumps, and we would just go over them. We didn't have to even talk to each other, just to be sharing all these experiences. It was magical, and I loved that they got that in here. Skateboards. I didn't skateboard. I didn't listen to punk or metal. I was way too clean for that, but I get it, and it's real, and you feel it, and oh, just beautiful. Like, just beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally
It was
agree.
bikes for me too. I guess we were all in the bike gang.
None of us have balance. Clearly, we.
No, definitely not. I could not be
Yeah.
on the board, man. It was hopeless.
So I have one other question, because I want to know if your guys' experience was the same as mine in reading this. How long did it take you guys to realize that the character of Rick is Rick Remender and that the character of Brian is Brian Posehn? And this was basically,
Oh,
it was based on
just
their
now.
childhoods.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
right now.
Okay.
I definitely did put that together.
You said their names, and I'm like, oh, those are the names of the writers.
Yeah, it took me criminally long to realize that. And it's the only reason, because this book, spoiler, if you haven't read this yet, it does end on a really nice note, right? Rick is, pulled away, his family moves away, but lo and behold, Brian also reveals, I'm not saying goodbye because I'm coming with you. And they move to Arizona, not together, but simultaneously. And lo and behold, they find another skate crew to kind of hang with there. And on first read, I was thinking to myself, man, I don't know if I like the storybook ending. It doesn't feel real to me. And then I sat back and I was like, wait a minute. They wrote this based on their own childhoods. I wonder if this was actually real, and if it worked out that way, and like everything comes into this beautiful full circle where they're writing the story about their childhoods, where they truly did stay connected. How awesome is that? How, like, I don't know, just a beautiful experience does that turn out to be, if that's really what it ends up being. So at first I didn't like it, but then I kind of loved it on a later thought here. What did you guys think of the storybook ending?
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was epic. No, go ahead. Go ahead, DC.
I thought it was great. Are we just talking about them moving, or are we going all the way to the end?
Well, I mean, I guess both, right? It's a matter of a couple pages. It's a pretty quick transition. So the whole shebang.
Because I moved a lot. I'm a military brat, so I was never anywhere for too long. 4 years was sort of my maximum anywhere. 10 months was the minimum. So moving was common, and so making friends and losing friends was very normal for me. And so the fact that Rick was moving really resonated with me. He gets there and then he's out of there. That was not a problem. I have moved and had someone I went to school with years later at a different city after multiple moves end up at the same school and class as me. We weren't best friends, but it's happened. And so for me, that was like, oh, cool. I love this idea. I love, even if it's not a real thing, that they didn't really do this. It's just that idea that they kept in touch, that friendship has stayed. I think that's great, because I've never had a friendship that lasted that long. And so, yeah, that to me was really both unrealistic and plausible at the same time. And I loved it. I loved that idea.
Beautiful. Stu, what was your thought going to be, man?
Yeah, dude. I love the ending. It was super dope. Of course, that they were living closer together, but I loved like the final interaction between finding the new skate crew and then dropping in and kind of leaving it on that note. It was super epic. I definitely wanted more at that point, but I thought it was a beautiful way to wrap it up. You know what I mean? It's poetically done, and I think it's. I don't know if it's like revisiting history with one of them. Maybe they like tried to drop in and it didn't go so well. But
Yeah.
so that's why they want to leave it blank. But regardless, man, I thought it was super dope. It was a cool little cherry on top.
Yeah, I did love that moment at the end where they leave that panel just completely black. You know, like he gets ready to drop in to kind of prove himself to the new crew, and then just cut to black. Like leave it open ended, leave it to where anything is a possibility in this world that they're living in Arizona now. Man, it was really a beautiful moment.
Little
Let's see
bit
what
of
the
little bit of Point Break going on there too. Like, remember, like my whole life has been leading up to this moment, man. You gotta let me surf it, man. You gotta let me
you gotta
do
let me go out there, man. You can't put me in a cage.
I,
it.
I
Little bit of
wanted
that
this
going
book to go on forever. Like 7 was
on.
not going to be enough, but I'm honestly satisfied, and I love that ending. It because that's all that really matters is that they're still going through it together. They are who they are, and they're going to find their footing, or they're not, and they'll just keep going. And I find that so beautiful. I'd love a 30 years later kind of book, but
Oh my God,
Sure.
yeah.
but how boring would that be? Yeah, I'm going to work.
Well, if you've read Deadly Class, you might get a 30 years later look at Rick Remender. If you've read the book, then
Oh,
you
I
know
have
what I'm
not.
talking about. If you haven't, I'm going to stay tight-lipped about it, but
Cool,
check it
cool.
out. It's very, very cool. Spoilers: Rick
Yeah.
Remender is not really an assassin in real life, though, that I know of. But
What?
you get a peek.
What?
You get a peek into his life.
I just want
Uh,
to say though, I can't wait for this in collected form. I think it's really going to sing all together when
oh
when
God,
people
yeah.
can experience it, start to finish. Because like I know it's the publishing, the publication schedule's been a little wacky, but I can't wait to see it. Like people read this, all in one volume and hear what they think about it.
It's going to flow together so well here. Let's see what the
Yeah.
chat has to say about Grommets here, though, starting with Omega Slice. The art in Grommets is so damn good. This book was hella fun to read as it came out. I totally agree. If you like the artwork on this, Brett Parson has some fantastic work as well. I have the pleasure of owning a Night Beast poster that he did. If you don't know what Night Beast is, it is the schlockiest of schlocky horror movies that you can get. And if that piques your interest, make sure to go hit up Blood Splatter Chatter because we did a review on that and another trauma movie. So check that out. We got Bobby Delgado hanging with us. Bobby, Hardcore Station, man. Great to see you, dude. Let's see here. Bobby saying this is definitely the time period I grew up in. What a beautiful time, man. The days before, I hate to say it, the days before cell phones and the internet, because what are we using constantly nowadays? But it really was a great time to be disconnected and maybe even more connected to the people that were in our lives at that period. Oh, Bobby, come on. I'm only knowledgeable about the things that I research consistently and thoroughly. Everything else, yeah, I'm a dunce. Forget it. All right, Jason, dude, we had the pleasure of asking you something that you wanted to highlight today, man. So for this segment of the little things, tell us about why you wanted to spotlight this panel from the book that we just talked about.
Skeletor, it's perfect. Look at that. Look at that. I never had Skeletor. I had He-Man. I love Skeletor. And it's perfect. It's exactly correct. I remember playing with my friend Skeletor. And and there you are. You're growing up. The toys don't matter so much anymore. They're in the box. But it's Skeletor. You're not getting rid of Skeletor. He's coming with you. Look, I still have my old G.I. Joes.
Nice.
Oh
These things
yeah,
come
dude.
with me.
Dude, are those rubber bands still holding up for the hips?
On that one, yeah, my Storm Shadow, not so much anymore.
That's okay. Snake Eyes just cut them in half. That's all.
Yeah, yeah. So, and it was just beautiful because you're in that room, and we've all been in our room listening to music, but there's more than just what we're necessarily feeling. There's all that ambience, and then I love the idea that when he moves and goes to the other room, like the Spider-Man poster is still there. Like there's still consistencies, though it's a different room. Yeah, it gave me all the feels. I can't remember what the other toy is right now. I can't quite see with
It looks like
my
it might be a Han
visions.
Solo in the
That's
Hoth.
what.
I think that's what it is. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. I mean, how cool is that, right? I mean, just a little tiny detail.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Honestly, dude,
Yeah,
I think you
that's
lucked
just
out by not having Skeletor because every single one of my friends that had a Skeletor, that purple armor was gone. And once that was gone, all you had was like a naked blue dude. And like that was not the cool figure to have. So
I don't know. It was better than the naked
I disagree.
pink
I mean, I
guy.
had the naked blue dude, and the face was awesome. Like, you know what I mean? It was all about the face. Well, yeah, dude, Masters of the Universe was everything growing up. That movie,
Absolutely.
the awful, but the beautifully bad. It's beautifully bad. You know what I mean? Like, I love it so much.
I can't remember the name of the character, but I think was it Tri-Face? Was it the one that had like the flipping face? I think it was Three Faces, right? Was that the
Yep.
guy? Yeah, I could never get like the big characters, right? I never had He-Man or Skeletor, but I always had like the offshoot people. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was rolling with. All right, let's go
I
ahead
had
and
He-Man. Yeah.
you had He-Man?
Yeah, I had He-Man. We had He-Man and Skeletor for sure.
Dang, dude. All right. All right. Rich
Yeah.
Stu over here and his parents buying them
I
all.
don't.
I bet you had the Millennium Falcon too.
No, definitely did not. No, my dad. No. You don't know the half of it. No, definitely did not.
All right, guys, let's jump into one of I know all of our favorite books here each and
Yeah.
every month when it
Yes.
comes out here. Kaya number 26, written and drawn by Wes Craig, amazing colors by Jason Wordy, and letters by Tom Napolitano. This was a banger. This was a great issue, and we're coming similar to Grommets, although this one was probably a little bit more planned. We're coming off of a break, right? We're coming back into this new arc that's kicking off for Kaya, where we are learning a little bit more about the uneasy alliance that Kaya has had to strike now with Razel because Jin is so darn close with that dude, man. Closer than maybe what any of us even know at this point because there's been a lot of illusions that have been made here. But we also see that the Atrians, the robotic creatures within this world here, their avatar, right, that they sent off here after Lord Vox had basically not been able to capture Kaya and Jin previously, has been diminished. He was basically backstabbed, right? Lord Vox is still out there now as well, and the Atrians have found a mechanism to be able to track him down. So there's seeds that are being planted here. All the while, though, Kaya, Jin, and Razel are still on the run, still on the move, basically making sure that they can weave and bob, so that nobody kind of figures out where they're at and what they're doing so they can keep on with their, with their quest, right? Kaya still does not trust this dude, though, right? Because she had the future premonition of herself basically telling her straight out, do not trust Razel. But this was a very interesting issue to me because you have to trust our main character, our flagship title character of Kaya, right? If her future self says, don't trust this dude, you're not going to trust him. This issue really made me feel all kinds of different ways about him, though, man, because he
Yeah.
was really invested in Jin. And it's hard to tell the difference between that investment being something that is for his own good or truly for Jin's good, because there was a real paternal relationship kind of thing going on there, taking him fishing, right? I don't think that was like, a choice that was made, just, unwillingly, something they stumbled onto. I think that they were really trying to make that connection between what a father and son, like a traditional father and son type of thing, to go fishing and learn and, spend time together. There, I just don't know what to think about this dude anymore because like I'm having a real hard time putting a pin in what this is going to mean for our characters moving forward. So I guess I'll start with that, and Stu, I'll kick it over to you, man. What were your thoughts on the first half of this issue, and what's your thoughts on the uneasy relationship that they're all forming?
Yeah, I love it. I love not knowing really what to believe or what to trust out of Ronzel. But I love this intro here with kind of like the robot queen or whatever admonishing. Let me ask y'all this because I get it confused. Which one is the robot that she sent off and infected with the disease that has a time? It's kind of like time sensitive. If he doesn't get this
Yeah,
done and he can get the treatment, but
that was Lord
it's kind of
Vox,
like his.
right?
Okay, that's 4 5. Okay,
I think so.
okay.
Yep.
But yeah, I always love to see Wes's robots in this. I just love the design of them. There's something like very Kirby-esque about them, but they're also
Oh,
just cool in like a Wes Craig kind of way. But anyway, I love the setup at the beginning, like with Kaya kind of jumping these guys, with Rosell setting them up. But I thought my favorite stuff was the stuff around the campfire, Kaya being uncertain, trying to get Jen back on her side, and it's now to the point where she's like completely lost them
yeah.
to Rosell, right? Like they're off like cackling on the other side of the campfire together. They're going fishing. And I think Jen is becoming just more and more unsure of everything. He's seeing things that both of them are not seeing. Like when they were going fishing, it seems like he was the only one that saw that dragon creature that snapped off the bait. And but this one was just this book always surprises me in the best of ways because you just never know what you're going to get one issue to the next. And coming off of a break, especially, you didn't know. Like there's some where he'll throw it way in the future, and it's like, wait, what? And you're trying to adjust to that, and you get back to the next issue, and it's in the present time, and so you're trying to acclimate yourself. But he has such a gift at you know bringing you in, assimilating everything, making you feel comfortable with where you're at and where the story is at. I don't, for as much as he jumps around, I don't ever feel like too out of place or where like I don't know what's going on. I think that's one of Wes's strongest gifts with Kai. Is just his ability to kind of weave the story and swerve in any kind of direction he wants to go in. So I just love and appreciate that, man. I love a new issue of Kaya, opening those first couple of pages, seeing, all right, what the fuck is he gonna, what is he throwing at me? You know what I mean? Like, what do we got going on? So this one was like a little bit more laid back and a lot of exposition and conversation, but there was still like, that's what I love about this book is like the issues where it feels like there's not a lot of big action set pieces or huge events happening. A million little pieces are being moved and nuances are being tweaked and you know what I mean. There's little micro expressions that you might have missed. It's so good. And yeah, like Craig and Wordy. I mean, come on, man. They always bring it. So, sorry for rambling, but I love this one.
No, never rambling, man. Totally agree. There's speaking on Craig's artistic approach. Yeah, I do. You hit the nail on the head, man. Like it's not. It's kind of has that Kirby Tech-esque feel, but it is totally Wes Craig, right? But you could totally feel that influence that he has on that. Jason, man, I know you love it. So yeah, what are your thoughts, man? What do you think about this issue?
Worst issue yet. No, I'm joking. Look, this is one of those books where it doesn't matter what happens. I love it. I don't follow everything. I forget more than I remember, sort of as to what Stu was saying, I think, where
I feel you. Yeah.
it's just that kind of book where they've got just a few characters. You don't necessarily need to know who everyone's name is or anything.
No,
it's going to move. The arcs are quite contained, yet still doesn't ever feel like it's written for a trade. And so, that opening where we get that little bird, which Maxine, I think, that's my new favorite design of anything ever. I want a tattoo of that little thing. I don't have a tattoo. I want a tattoo of that thing. It's just so cool. And so, what was I going with? Yeah. Oh, I lost my point. Anyway, it's great. And yeah, it's just one of those books. Oh yeah, so about the trusting, Razzle or not. I like that because an arc ago or so with those people in that little world where Kaya like blocked them off and to save their own skin and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
When they were trapped in the sewer, right?
Yeah, can we trust Kaya? Like, is she really like Jin isn't that way. He's not really ready to abandon people. He wants everyone. And so that youth versus Kaya's sort of goal, I think that's fantastic, and I lose a lot of the expressions and stuff because it is such a quick read. So I'm sure I've forgotten and lost a lot of detail along the way. But this is another one of those books, and artists like Hayden Sherman or Riley Rossmo, where I think paneling and layouts are some of the strongest. Maybe not so much this issue, but there are some issues that, we'll get like all these tiny little panels and stories being told in this really creative, vibrant way. And yeah, I just can't get enough of it.
Yeah, I think it's further proof that there's like two subsets of people in the world: people that have read Kaya and love it, and people that just haven't experienced it. And that's the only way that it is, because to know Kaya is to love Kaya.
So I will admit, I was slow to catch on to Kaya.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one. Our Nick Comic Culture has told us, a multitude of times here, we had to drug him, we had to beat him, we had to tie him to a chair and make him read it. But after doing so, he ended up loving it. So
I was there from the beginning. I had all the issues. I read it all, but first like 7, 8 issues, I was like, I don't know, do I like this enough? And then I just saw it clicked, and I'm like, oh, yep, nope, I love this more than anything.
Some of the best, forms of media are like that with some people. Like I equate that, not to say that this is like the comparison I'm about to make, but Breaking Bad, the TV show, was like that for me. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I had to try to struggle through season 1 to then get to season 2 and for things to pick up. And I'm like, oh, no, this is like brilliant. This is brilliant on a different level than I even understood fully before. So I totally get that train of thoughts, though.
It's always so weird how art, sometimes you're ready for art in your life and sometimes you're not. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I always find that fascinating. Like whether and I'm a firm believer that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes the right piece of art comes into your life for the right reasons at the right time. You know what I mean? It's but that has been one of life's great and beautiful mysteries. That's always I've always been in tune with. I love that.
Well, it's one of the best things that keeps things fresh, right? Because what we say, and when we praise something, and when we say that something didn't necessarily hit for us, the best part about that is that another person can have the complete opposite experience from that. It can hit just in the right way as well, and we get to relish in hearing their opinions sometimes too. Which sometimes it hurts a little bit, but ultimately it's pretty great to see that everyone can have different experiences through all these different things.
Yeah, Speaking
of which. Yeah. Speaking of different experiences here, we pick back up with Razel, Kaya, and Jin, and the latter half of this issue is largely spent on what I will call the astral plane. Razel and Jin, they go on their fishing trip, but it's largely taking place in this mystical, magical realm-looking place, right? Where they're kind of like speaking towards the magic that can happen and speaking towards Jin's power and how he is starting to have a little bit more confidence and feeling like he is maybe more powerful than he is. But Razel makes sure to check him and be like, yeah, you turned into a dragon that one time for 15 seconds after I helped you, and then you passed out like a punk. So don't get ahead of yourself.
He said what, you were exhausted and then you wet yourself, and poor Jin's like, all right. He completely burned him. He's like, we're a dragon one point.
But this was the moment that I was alluding to, where it was really the father-son moment, and we've had conversations in previous issues where we can see similarities with the way that their faces look, right? We can see there's similarities obviously with the color of their hair. They're both redheads, which doesn't tell the whole story, but we're starting to see that there may be more to Razel than what we first truly knew. And this was kind of a beautiful moment between these two characters that really just made me question everything I know. Is Kaya the right person? Is Razel the right person? Is everyone just complex and nuanced like in real life? Or is this, is it being what it's supposed to be? Great ending to the issue. They're still forming this uneasy alliance. Kaya was not able to convince Jin, but they're all still together. And a moment I didn't touch on earlier in the issue is that we kind of open up with the introduction of Razel talking to some unsavory characters, and it looks very much like he's selling them out. He's like, yeah, I got these two people right back here. Special first appearance. And it looks like they were it looks like he was trying to kind of sell them out. He's like, yeah, I got those two. I got the ones you're looking for, but is the price right? And it looks like he's doing the devious thing that we expect him to do, but really he's just kind of it's all playing the setup for when Kaya comes in and starts beating the hell out of them. So I'm pulled and I'm torn in all these different, directions with the way that this book is leading. But we're still with the trio right now. Where do you guys see, I guess, the unlikely trio going here in the future, and what would you like to see? Jason, you first, buddy.
Oh man, that's one of my favorite things about Kaya is I have zero expectations. It's just I don't know what to predict. I couldn't tell you. I don't know where it's going to zig or zag, and it's a complete and utter joy and privilege to read a book and not even guess where it's going to go. I couldn't even start. I'm sorry.
No, that's actually a very good answer, because I'm kind of in the same boat here. Stu, how are you feeling about this ending and where you see it going?
Well, I'll help you guys out. Rozell's a dick. We can't trust him. He's obviously on a quest to get his powers back. I think at the end of the day, that's his end game, one way or the other. And I don't know if I buy this whole I'm bringing you north to show you the robots have a robust slave trade going on. Like, I don't is that really what he wanted to bring Jin north to show him instead of bringing him east? So I don't know, man. I just think um, dude's super shady. It's not going to end well, And I like the way it's pushing Jin. Jin's going to have to make his own decisions for himself, right? And I know the title of the book is Kaya, and she's the main character in so many ways, but it's going to be interesting when it becomes about Jin, because he's the one, and that's eventually where it's heading towards. But yeah, I don't know. Just the fact alone that he is essentially this universe's Loki, right? He's the trickster god. Like he's always up to something. So.
Well, dang it,
But
dude!
that
It's so
doesn't
fun.
necessarily mean it's bad.
Yeah.
True.
Loki,
I feel like we're getting that dark twist, and that's that joy of like having Kaya in this corner and Razzle in the other, and like which one is going to, maybe both have some good points to them.
Yeah, and I think they're both like obsessive over Jin, and ways that can be harmful to him at the end of the day. So like that's what I'm saying. Like our boy's gonna be I don't know, pushed down a hard path. It's gonna be interesting to see what he decides.
well, I mean, I feel like we talked about it with media in general. Sometimes the right things hit you at the right times, and I think you could say that with relationships. And I'm sure we've all kind of had those moments where we've had the right people in our lives at the right time, and they influenced us, and we grew as individuals because of that. But there was also a time to move on from that as well, and maybe that's kind of some of the situations that we're seeing. Maybe Razel is the right person for Jin right now, even though Kaya is probably going to have his back for the long run. So. But Jason, like you said, like time will tell, and that's one of the beauties of this book is that it zigs when you want it to zag, and it's glorious in that way because it always gives you something really, really special.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep. Stu, buddy, we talked about the little things here for Grommets. Why don't you talk to us about your choice of panel here for the book we just talked about?
Yeah, dude. I should have included 2 pages in this. I love the page before. There, the opening panel was Kaya and all them. Kaya kind of like the shot was from behind her shoulder, and she's in the foreground as Razel and Jen are in the background, kind of laughing over the campfire, and you can see just the kind of concern and intensity on her face. But yeah, this was one of my favorite quiet little moments. And I was talking about micro expressions, trying to convince Jen to, Roswell doesn't have your best interests at heart. Let's get out of here. Trying to pull him away in the dead of the night, and him, emphatically saying no, slumping back to the ground and falling asleep. And just the hint, not necessarily even, you can barely see it. It's one of those things like, is it there? Is it not? but just that little hint of a smirk with Razel as as she's looking back and Kai is looking back at him across like two or three panels there. It's just a brilliant little scene, man, where that little shit knows that he tried to pull her brother away in the dead of the night and was not successful. And like Jason was saying, man, it's this back and forth for kind of like the battle of Jin's soul with both these people at stakes, and you don't know, what it's gonna be. So
Yep.
it's I can't wait.
And another fun thing about this panel too, for those of you playing at home, this is not the first micro smirk that Stu has chosen. This is in fact the second one. So keep your tally marks here. When we get to five, when we get to 5, Stu's going to give us a free micro smirk himself. So get your punch cards ready.
You're making promises. You're writing checks I can't cash there. Eh? Come on.
we got another Kaya fan hanging with us, Taki. Nice seeing you, talk, man. We know you're a big Kaya supporter and you're loving this book too.
Oh yeah, always been repping Kaya.
Heck yeah.
And yes, I did use my microphone in the Enchanted Forest. My laptop is bit to dust, brother. So I'm out here in the wild, wild west, like the old days.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Like the Instagram live days.
Yeah, we make it work regardless of the circumstances. All right, let's jump into our final book of the night here with Vanishing Point #1, written by Mark Russell with artwork by art and colors by Juan Doe, with letters by Carlos Mangual. This is the new anthology series from Mad Cave from Mark Russell, and I was like super excited. I was really pumped to see Mark back on an indie title because I think he's done some really stupendous work, and I think that there's a lot of comparison points from this to one of his other works that I know at least me and Stu really, really enjoyed here, which was Traveling to Mars. Jason, did you read that one yet?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Same feelings?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All
okay.
Exactly.
All the feelings.
Yeah.
So we pick up here and again there's a lot of through lines that are very similar to this one. So we have basically the corporate dude who's on a 10-year contract. He's out in space gathering a certain particular type of asteroid that's being picked up here for a company. The thing is, he has to stay out there. He has to finish his mission. He has to gather X amount of particular asteroids here for those 10 years. If he does it, he gets the payload, right? He gets everything that he wants. If he doesn't, though, if he decides to cash out 9 years into this 10-year mission, you don't get the 9 years worth of work that you've done. You get nothing. So you have to complete your quota, regardless of anything. So we go through the struggles of our character, and he's out there all by himself, and he's in deep space. So he is truly, truly isolated. He has like communication with his wife and family at a certain point. But for all intents and purposes, if anything goes haywire, if everything goes astray with his ship, he is not just the pilot. He's not just the gatherer of these asteroids, but he's also the mechanic. He's the problem solver of this ship. And if we know that something can go wrong, especially in a story like this, something will go wrong. Sure enough, that something does happen, and we see our character gets a little bit, there's precarious things that are going on. His comms are broken. He has to go fix the ship here. And all throughout this time frame, he's starting to question kind of like, I guess, the longevity of his time frame out there, him missing his family, right? His removing himself from human contact and human emotion. And it really kind of sets the stage for the latter half of this issue and the revelations that take place. Being that we're Mark Russell fans and we've read Traveling to Mars and things like that, how did you guys feel about the beginning of the story here and kind of what it started to deliver you? And Stu, I'm going to throw it to you first.
First of all, how are you going to talk about Traveling to Mars and not call out those folks? Ablaze Publishing, where is our Kickstarter at? Y'all are terrible. Come on now. It's been years at this point. Like,
it's been a long time.
Yeah. We're still waiting on that Traveling to Mars hardcover from Ablaze, but I'll be honest, dude. This one kind of felt like a Traveling to Mars ripoff. It didn't really land with me. I kept thinking of that book. I love the art, and I think Mark made a great decision to go on Mad Cave. It's great to see him paired up with them, and like I said, I think they paired him with a great artist for this one. But I don't know. It felt like a story I kind of already read before, and it just didn't have those great Mark Russell poetic punches. He usually lands some haymakers with you, and it felt like this was a little less inspired. So great art. It felt like, if we had this kind of energy behind Traveling to Mars in the first place, it would have been a book on a whole nother level. But not to take away from anything Roberto Melli's artwork or anything like that, but I don't know. This one, it just felt like somebody was trying to recreate Traveling to Mars again. To me, that at the end of the day, this one just didn't stand out, and I think he's got better stories than at the end of the day. But
Okay,
sorry
I feel you. Obviously, like if to say that this can't be compared to Traveling Mars would be foolish, right? I think we all can see, the pinpoints to that. Jason, tell us about your experience with the issue here, man. What were you thinking about it, and how did it land?
I adored it. This was my backup of the week, my runner-up. I thought this was fantastic. The art was really cool. Really, I found it almost jarring because like there's parts where it's kind of cartoony and really it feels very digital, and then you got the shot with him with the axe, and it feels like really like line and scratchy, and so it was kind of a weird mix, but I liked it. Like I was like, I don't know, and then I'm like, but I really like that. So the art was conflicting for me, but I think it did a great job of telling the story and helping to tell the story. And as much as it was like Traveling to Mars for someone going to space, it didn't have the same. Yeah, it didn't have the same punch, of course, but I didn't want that. I really appreciated the story it went with, and I liked this idea of, especially like the panel there where like the girl's just like, all right, good night, dad. Kids, they don't really care, and it's like, all right, yeah, dad'll be back. They don't click in. So there's a lot of little details like that I really appreciated that we couldn't have gotten with Traveling to Mars because there were very different characters and different situations. And then, the twist part later, I thought that was incredible. I was just like, oh, that really catches my imagination. Like I was really blown away by it. It really captured my imagination.
Okay. I totally agree with you on the artistic styles, because when you see things like his own spaceship, there's like a playfulness to the way that it's rendered, right? And the wavy arms and things like that. But there's a menacing factor to him, even though he's using that axe as a tool. Is nothing like the thing that you would think that would be used for, right? He's just really just picking asteroids out of the door, but it does bring such a different feeling towards, I guess, what you would anticipate it would be used for. As the issue goes on, and this is where it really takes a hard pivot away from the feelings of Traveling to Mars, is that what we're starting to realize is that we've heard things from this company that he's working for, which may or may not be the Beef Corps from Traveling to Mars. Who knows? It's definitely a corporation, though. What we find out, though, is that there's been captains of these ships, and they call it kind of going Ahab, right? Which is kind of just another way of saying they've went crazy, they've gone off the grid, and no one really knows where they've gone at that point. And our main character starts hearing screams and screams and screams, and it's all coming off of the heels of his communications really getting jacked up and busted from this, rogue asteroid that hit his ship. But what we come to find out is that these very particular types of asteroids that only humans can really perceive, they can't be picked up by the machinery itself, which is why things can't just go on autopilot. They almost have a mindset and a feeling and almost a hive mind consciousness of themselves. So as he is harvesting these asteroids that he's bringing back for the company, they're all alive with feelings, with emotions. They're screaming out at him. And at one point or another, they start truly communicating with him through binary code on his computer, and then through, real communication where they're pleading, they're begging, stop. To the point where they're just saying the names, basically. They're saying the names of the asteroids that he is taking their lives. obviously this drives the man crazy. We start to understand a little bit more about the nature of going Ahab, and he very truly kind of leans into that same idea, that same mentality on the end of his 10-year journey. To me, this felt very much like a dark reflection of what we got from Traveling to Mars. Again, it takes a hard pivot point, but that book faced death in such a joyful manner. Even in the look back that we got, that was so morose and so heartbreaking in some moments, it was very joyful and very celebratory at the same time. This, no, you don't get any of that whatsoever. You get dark, twisted nastiness, and a kind of like an end point that was almost like a pinpoint in finality. It was just saying, hey, this is the only solution that we have. To me personally, Jason, what did you think about the ending of this issue?
It was 2001: A Space Odyssey meets The Shining. You know, it was really just madness, and you know, there's no good that can come of it. You know, you really got to just. You can either, yeah, I mean, you can't win in the situation, right? Like, how do you face that? Like, killing sentience, even if it doesn't look like you or me, it's still alive clearly, and it's letting you know. And then there's that idea of what happens afterwards, right? Like, they're gonna keep sending people. How can these poor things defend themselves? It really captured my imagination. I want to know more. I want this to be able to solve itself. I'd like to know what becomes of it, you know. And then that's where I want the 2001 aspect, you know, the end with like the Star Child, and like, how can we help? how can there be goodness to come for this? What is this?
Well, hopefully the all-seeing, all-knowing space baby was not in those asteroids, because I fear to know what that ending might be if that's the case here.
Well, that's it, right? Can you imagine killing the Star Child? I don't know. It's a scary thought. But yeah, no, I was really captured by, you know, we got our Jack Torrance kind of thing with the madness. And is this real, or is it just crazy? And yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much.
Gives a whole new feeling towards that axe that he was holding, now that you mentioned The Shining here. Stu, what did you think of the ending, man?
I don't know, man. It just didn't connect with me. It just didn't. I'm sorry. It did. Like the rocks with magnetic frequencies are supposed to make us feel something. I don't know. It was just hard for me to find some emotional investment in that. And like, you know, I understand what he was doing, killing the radio, and you know, trying to keep on top of the number. I feel like there was a better way for him to tell this story, though, and I don't know. I feel like he was confused on, you know, what he was trying to say more so than, you know, I feel like he had a clear idea of it in Traveling to Mars, but I feel like he wanted to say something about the space race and billionaires, and I just don't know if it connected with me. You know, from start to finish, you know, I was kind of haunted by the ghost of his other book at the beginning, and then the swing he took in the second half didn't really connect with me. So I don't know. Unfortunately, this one wasn't for me, and I gotta say, for a guy who was like once one of my favorite writers in the game, I'm a little worried where Mark is at. And like, I'm not saying this was a weak book by any stretch of the imagination, but just I just feel like he hasn't um been connecting with you know, X Factor obviously wasn't a win for him, and I feel bad because he was finally starting to get a look with some bigger books. But I don't know, man. I just I feel like he's brilliant, and he's always got such like subversive things to say and such clever ways to say it. And I feel like this one was one of the first ones I've read from Mark where I felt like he was trying to like establish the Mark Russell brand, but he didn't really have anything to sink his teeth into. Um, you know, when it came to the meat of the story and all those poetic turns of phrase that we usually get from him. So I don't know. It left me a little bit concerned about, you know, one of my favorite writers moving forward because he felt a little aimless on this one to me personally.
Okay. Well, there you go. 3 different views on this book, 3 differing opinions here, top, middle, and bottom here. More importantly, though, I'm very curious to see if you've read this in the chat, though. Let us know what your thoughts are on Vanishing Point. The nice thing about this, though, is that it is an anthology series. So this was a one and done. Obviously, each progressing issue is going to be one and done. So while we had feelings towards another book that he had written, I would love to see what the next issue is going to be and how maybe it can deviate from that entire idea and give us something really new and fresh.
Let me ask you this though: what is the point? Like, what is the vanishing point per se? Because I didn't really catch that, and I don't know if I moved through the story too quick. Like, what is the point of this anthology series? You know what I mean? Like, assorted crisis events. I guess we have some of that idea of some of the idea of what was going for there. But like, what do you think the theme per se? I guess of this anthology series is?
Well, Jason, I'll let you go first if you had maybe a clue on that.
I mean, I don't know, but I really just think it's, stories. I think, you think of the EC books that Oni's putting out, where it's just sort of anthologies, just different stuff. It may not necessarily have to have a connecting point or a wider, deeper sort of connection, but it may, in which case it'd probably just be, if it's Mark Russell, the horror of science fiction is what I'm going to guess.
Yeah.
He could straight up just tell like existential dread stories one after the other, and I'd be here for it. You know what I mean?
But the next one looks like it's the Jetsons, so I don't know.
Yeah. So that's the way I took it. I feel like this was really Mark Russell's sandbox, and he's just gonna play with his toys in it, and we're gonna get cool stories out of it, regardless of whether they're interconnected or not, or have a overarching theme. I think it's just a place for him to kind of have fun and express himself. And let's not forget, this is the man who kind of came to comic book stardom by way of a Count Chocula fan fiction, for God's sake. So he's capable of just about anything. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's not forget that we could very truly get anything from this series, which is honestly the most exciting part about it. So our feelings from issue to issue could really sway drastically, but that's kind of a cool notion of this book here.
Can I just say real quick before we move on? Can I get a Not All Robots Volume 2 with Mike Diodato, please? Pretty please.
I don't think you're going to be getting that with AWA being
AWA. I know, man. I know.
Kind of non-existent. We got Omega Slice here saying, though, I got it for the Ward cover and I was excited for the anthology book, but Stu's reaction is got to keep it at the bottom of the read. Okay. All right.
Well, you got two positives though, man. Give it a shot. I don't want to be like the reason you didn't check it out. I'd rather be the reason you checked out a book than not checked out a book, but at the same time, like, I don't know. Give it a shot. Mark is always worth the read, I feel like. Do what you do.
Yeah.
I understand that sentiment, Stu. I don't like it when someone says, I didn't get a book because you didn't like it. And I'm like, oh.
Exactly. I don't want to. I feel like we have enough of that out here. You know what I mean? I want to be champion things, not shitting on them. But
at the same time, it's important to say, if we don't like something.
To be honest.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, and that's the cool thing about the things that we all do is that it's important for viewers to really get in tune with people that have very similar viewpoints, because none of our opinions are just that.
Yeah.
There are opinions. None of this is factual. You got to find the people that vibe with the same, they vibe on the same frequency that you do. And when you find that, follow that person, because you're going to get tuned into a heck of a lot of more cool things that maybe you wouldn't have gotten. And heck, even if you don't, stick along for the ride, because you still might find something that was totally off your radar anyway. So there's a lot of cool opportunities,
guys. Hell yeah. Keep that shit on the bottom of the pile, Omega. Hell yeah. Thanks, guys.
And before we leave Vanishing Point, I wonder if maybe Stu didn't like this because there wasn't comedy. Mark Russell always brings comedy, and this one didn't have very much. Like, this was really
yes and no. It was more like I was looking for those, like, man, like, I don't know. I guess because my brain went into traveling Mars mode, I was ready for those one-liners he hits you with, where it's just super profound. But I think it was a combination of both of those things. Yeah,
it's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. moving on here, we have our covers of the week, which I'm going to go ahead and jump in with, starting with Los Monsteros here with this great kind of like homage cover to those old detective novels of the past here, like the Mickey Spillane look and feel of those books. I really loved what that book was. And, you had a really good review on this one. You dug this book, right? Comic?
Oh, yeah, I really did, yeah.
Nice. Okay.
And you?
I
Did you like it?
I didn't get a chance to read it. I loved
Oh,
this
no.
particular cover, but I haven't had a chance to read the actual book yet. I was listening to Sleepy Reader, I believe, though, and he said he really dug it as well. So it's got some buzz to it. I think it kind of surprised some people here. So I'm going to have to...
Two high-profile endorsements right there.
For real. Yeah, exactly. So I'm definitely going to be checking this one out here. Jason's favorite book here, Resurrection Man, here has a fantastic Felipe Andrade cover. I'm a sucker for Felipe's work. I love what they did in the previous works that they did with Rom V, like Rare Flavors, Many Deaths of Layla Starr. To see their cover work, I love the color palette that they work with. Really beautiful stuff here. Had to highlight that one. And then Dan Panosian.
Can I just tell the story real quick?
Go ahead.
I just got to tell real quick. Like, we were talking about the show earlier in the week and prepping. And he sent me the list of books that Jason had read or whatever, and I was like, "All those sound cool, man. But what about fucking Resurrection Man? Like, you got that." And Eric was like, "Hey, I don't know how to bring this to you, but yeah, he's not reading that one." I was like, "Oh, damn!" I was like, "DC Patrol's not reading Resurrection."
I spent like the next 4 days consoling Stu, just letting him know life is okay. It doesn't matter. It's all right.
I'm glad that people like it, right? Like, I love the concept. I really do, but it just didn't click. And
hey, like you said, different shirts for different folks.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I love that you're treating it like an ugly hat. Like, no, it looks good on you though. So we got Dan Panosian back on covers this week, and I'm so happy that we got to see it. My pick for Panosian time happened to be Herculoids. Great looking homage to, again, the 80s cartoon look and feel, but that Panosian flair that we got back in our lives. Jason, tell us about the covers that you picked here, starting with G.I. Joe Real American Hero.
Well, I mean, I know it's no Resurrection Man. But I like just some fun, right? And so I love this idea of, Snake Eyes in the suburban, neighborhood at Springfield, and you got the old-fashioned curtains, and he's putting on the Cobra outfit because that's part of what's going on in the story, and you got the reflection, and it's just, there's a lot going on, and it's fun, and it's exciting, and it's Andy Kubert, and so yeah, it really caught my imagination.
Dude, I wish Andy Kubert would do more than cover work. I really, well, in fact, here, just to show this off, I just picked up a fresh copy of this last week.
Oh, and nice, yes.
Like, I mean, yeah, come on. That was part of my childhood. Their work was it's so ingrained with everything that I love about comic books.
Yeah.
Tell us about your second cover choice here.
Look at that. Just that, it speaks for itself. It's Kaya. It's Peach Momoko. It's fun. Like, it's almost cartoony and cutesy, but kick ass. I don't know. I love it so much.
Yeah, Peach's style totally works with Kaya.
I love how Kaya always usually has like one variant and one variant only, and it's always fire almost like Ice Cream Man in that way.
Yeah. It's hard not to get like both covers because Wes Craig is always putting out great covers, and then I don't like to double dip too much, but the Kaya covers are always great.
There we go. Simpleton, Chibi Kaya.
That's exactly it.
It's totally true.
Jim for sure.
Studio Ghibli Kaya. All right. Stu, we're going to kick it over to you, man. Wow. Spotlighting Amazing Spider-Man. I didn't realize you were such a big Spider-Man fan.
Shut up, I'm not. But Alex Maleev back doing Marvel. It's good to see Alex Maleev back in the game doing covers. And He's done some great ones recently. Psylocke, not too long ago, a couple weeks
Yeah,
ago, was dope. And this one in Spidey Midair, I had to highlight. I love the lighting on this. Love the colors. And yeah, and
Great
I just
ending.
love the Spidey pose, dude. It just looks so badass. Yeah, and I love how it's. I don't know what it like. If it is it like bed sheets or something on a clothesline on a rooftop or something, but
that's what I
it's
take it as.
it's
Yeah,
got this. Yeah, I just love how it's kind of like wrapping around that. It's a beautiful, beautiful cover. So
nice.
good to see Malik back at it.
Oh heck yeah!
Hell
All
yeah,
right, what?
dude. Jim Rugg. I just had that. Jim Rugg's been killing all of these. Like, and this to me isn't even my favorite from the series, but I wanted to. I saw he was doing covers, and we had chosen a bunch of my favorites already, so I wanted to highlight Jim Rugg's variant for Blood Squad 7 has been freaking awesome. All the '90s glory, especially in this one. You know what I mean? It looks like somebody was doodling, in seventh grade in the cafeteria, making the most badass cover they could come up with. That's what I love about Jim's artwork. It always captures the the heart, and just the joy of comic books from when I was a kid. And he's such a master of styles, man. The guy can
Yeah,
imitate slash look like anybody, and also still keep it uniquely his own. So just one of my favorite people in the industry. Period. And I wanted to highlight his Blood Squad 7 covers before they were up. So y'all check him out. I think like number 3 or 4, he's got like this badass one of a homegirl doing this super cool like heel kick, and it's spread out across the whole page. Like some of them are action, some of them are still shots, but they've all been glorious. So yeah, shout out Jim.
heck yeah, dude. I like you spotlighting Blood Squad 7 too. That's a weird, fun book, man. That like tells it's kind of like the spiritual successor to Youngblood, even though Youngblood is kind of coming back out,
Have
kind
you
of.
been keeping up with it?
Yeah, I'm reading it in the background. I'm not reviewing it anymore necessarily, but but yeah, I'm reading it and like I think it's stupid fun. Like it's just like great 90s, I don't know, callback kind of action, but kind of told in
Yeah,
the
they were
lens
doing
of
that.
modern day.
They were doing the same thing with Local Man. Like I kind of like those vein of books. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we poke fun at the 90s so much, like we kind of lose sight that there was a lot of cool things and a lot of influential things that happened during that time frame, especially for people like us. So like, yeah, why not honor it in this way as well? There's nothing
Yeah,
wrong with that.
the '90s made us, man. Made
Yeah,
us. Yeah, absolutely.
exactly.
And then Penosian Time, baby, Absolute Superman. Had to throw him on there. It's glorious. Great little profile shot from behind. I love the way Dan does hair. I've said it before. I will say it again. I love his follicle. His follicle game is super strong. Dude's just, it's just so cool. When you're talking about, comics in the '90s, I love going back and seeing old issues and seeing Dan on there as an anchor, and to think about where he's at now. It's simply incredible. So shout out to him. Continuing to kill it. Like some weeks you don't see any Dan covers, and then you'll see 3 or 4 bangers in one week,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's just I can't get enough of it. I think he's doing incredible work. Shout out Dan.
Heck yeah.
So I think that's it. Yeah.
There
Oh
you go.
wait,
One more. One more.
one more. Captain Planet, dude. Everybody's talking about Mark Spears. This Christian Ward cover is glorious, y'all.
Yes.
Right in his wheelhouse. The color palette. I just love Ward's artwork, and I felt like the Spears one was getting all the love, and I don't know how I feel about that, but I thought this one deserved some props and some respect as well. So shout out Christian Ward, who's really I think taking a turn and come on strong. One of DC's another great artist slash writer now in DC stable.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, I know. Again, you're taking over the title of Two-Face, which we all had great opinions of. We had
Which
wonderful
is
opinions.
okay. It was, I mean, somebody called it like Fight Club or some famous
We all had great opinions of
overgeneralization, but it's some of us had okay opinions of it. But
it.
we work through these things.
Yes, that we do. Speaking of working through things here, let's talk about the time that the comic industry
Yeah.
worked through a period which really what blossomed into, I don't know, the maturation of comic books and the adultifying of comic books here, because we're going to talk about comics of futures past here. Dude, May 14th is kind of a magical day because I was telling these guys backstage and trying to find a comic to highlight for, that released on May 14th sometime in the past. I had a lot of options here, but when I saw this was an option, I don't know how I couldn't have chosen it. We're talking about Watchmen #1, released on May 14th, 1986. This book hit the spinner racks and immediately changed the landscape of comics. 1986, we talk a lot about just kind of like absolutely changing the game for comic books and it was really books like this with Alan Moore, and it was books like The Dark Knight Returns with Frank Miller, showing us that comics are not just for children anymore. This is a medium that's growing up. This is a medium that could do a lot of different things. And it's hard to say, like, I like trying to throw out some fun facts and some different things that maybe people didn't know. It's like almost impossible. Like, there's so many details that we all know about Watchmen because it's heralded as the greatest comic book of all time. Debatable, right? It's, like, don't give this to a person for their first comic book, but give this to them when they know that they're a fan of comic books, maybe. But the interesting thing, right, especially knowing what we've gotten recently with properties like The Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, the TV show, this book was originally intended to be a showcase for the Charlton characters that DC Comics had purchased at the time. The comedian character originally was supposed to be Peacemaker. The original story was supposed to be who killed the Peacemaker. And Rorschach was originally truly one of my favorite DC characters, was originally supposed to be the Question. So I think it's really cool that we see some of those character types within these characters, and I think it would have really been interesting to see this ingrained into the greater DC universe, because what we know about Watchmen and what we know about Alan Moore's relationship to Watchmen and how it's changed over the years, I wonder what Alan Moore would be doing in comics right now if these were not original creations from him, which DC promised to give over the rights to once it went out of print, which then, as we know, never went out of print because they just keep producing this book over and over and over. So Alan Moore will truly never own this. I wonder what that conversation would be like if they were always the Charlton characters and that conversation never had to happen where ownership was a thing. Would Alan Moore be jaded towards DC Comics had that never happened? I don't know. Time will tell. Maybe there's a multiverse where that exists. Yeah.
Just love for Ditko and the Question. I just would have loved to see him on that character, period. Like, I know Rorschach is a force of nature in his own thing, but just to see him kind of, take that character and who has so much history, and Ditko and, his personal history in the game, it just would have been interesting to see his take on that.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Well, like I said, only time will tell on this. But if you're one of the 3 people who would be watching a show like this who have never read Watchmen, do yourself a favor, prepare yourself, read it, watch it, love it, enjoy it, because it truly was a game changer in comics. And I don't think there's a wrong time to read Watchmen. I think that every time you read it, you could really draw something new and special out of it.
And I just gotta say this: it's got so many great incarnations. Like, hate on the Snyder film if you want to. I still think it's one of the best comic book, from comic book to live screen adaptations that we got out there. Also, like, if you talk about the animated movie, they just made a motion picture comic or something with it. That's excellent as well. And then you talk about the Damien Lindelof, HBO Max series with Regina King. Like, it spawned some great reproduction / adaptation / own IPs in itself. And I highly encourage anybody to check out any fans of Watchmen to check out those on video / wherever you can find.
Yeah, absolutely. You get a different flavor with each one of them here, and look at this, Bobo. Having the humbleness to call me the knowledgeable one, and then dropping facts like this in the chat. Bobby is truly the one with the master knowledge here. So saying Dr. Manhattan was supposed to be Captain Atom and Owlman was based on the Blue Beetle here. Dropping knowledge.
Who fought for Peacemaker is what I'm like. who was like, nah, Peacemaker's got to, like, we got to keep that guy around. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, it's just so random.
A 3-year-old John Cena was just like looking at DC going, no, no, no.
Seriously.
All right, we're going to jump into the comics that were released today. A lot of cool things that are coming out here. Jason, I'm going to start with you, man. What are you, I guess, most excited for the comics that hopefully you picked up?
Oh my God, that's a good question. I got my stack here, and I don't even know. There's so much good stuff this week. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go with X Factor, one no one is talking about, because
Okay.
Mark is the best, and I still enjoyed this run regardless. And I think that there's so much room for potential, and I'm gonna be sad to see it go.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. You're surprisingly, again, I said I'm the Marvel zombie, but you're enjoying the X line even more than I am. So like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
just goes to show
I
you how.
had to let books go because I was enjoying it all, and I'm like, I can't buy it all. But yeah, no, it's good. I'm having a great time with the X stuff.
There you go, ringing endorsement. Stu, what books you looking forward to?
Oh, dude, so many. Like all these that you have picture, right?
Yeah.
Exquisite Corpses. I've been looking out for a while now. Ever since Tinian did that interview and just all the planning that's gone behind that book, I'm so excited to see what they cooked up. Also, Michael Walsh is doing incredible stuff, so it's cool that it's teamed with him. Dude, Battle Beast. I'm happy to see that back. I love all the promo gimmick. Like, I know you were kind of on the fence about some of it, but dude, I love like the blind bags. I love that like one of them has an advanced copy of number 2. It's dude, I
Look
just
at,
love it.
hold on. Yeah, we're soloing this. Oh no,
That's
no.
cool, bro.
Get
Oh,
There it
ready.
is. There it is. That's what I was trying to do.
Yes.
Look at blind bags
Oh,
for
Yep.
days.
oh yeah.
Yep.
Good.
That man knows what time it is. But yeah, dude, it's just like as it was with Transformers. I feel like it's another book people are so happy to see on the shelves. There's been so much excitement around it. They're just doing everything right over at Skybound. So shout out to them. But yeah, both of the Batman books, Absolute and Dark Patterns, have been incredible. The list goes on. Geiger, the list goes on and on, dude. How about
I
you?
forgot to mention Aquaman.
Yes.
I read it,
I
and it's
got
so
it.
good.
I love Aquaman. So
Dude, it's such a slept on book, too.
Yeah, it is, and like the artwork is fire. The story is so fun. I'm
yeah,
having such a good time with Aquaman right now. If I were to pick one book out of this week's pile here that I'm most excited for, though, it's got to be One World Under Doom, man. I love seeing that punk bitch get slapped around by Dormammu. It's just like it's about time, is all I'm really saying. It's like
Wow. Hold on, bro. Hold on, bro. Hold on, bro. Hold on. Did you just call my boy a punk bitch? Because I'm gonna have to just hop off the broadcast right now. We're gonna have to figure things out behind the scenes.
I was trying
Like,
to instigate. I was going to
wow.
wait for your phone to fall right over as I said
Nah,
it.
yeah, you just jumped into that. First of all, I'm gonna have to read the issue, and then I'm gonna have to respond to that. So I know Dormammu was not slapping nobody around. I know that's crazy.
oh, I
I
love
will
it.
say this: I'm very interested to hear your thoughts on that issue when the time is
Yeah,
right.
you and Nick have both said that. So like, and I don't like you gloating. I don't like how I'm feeling right now. So yeah, I'm gonna have to read that right away. I'm gonna have to read that right away.
Oh man, it might just be fun messing with you. I'm not gonna lie, it might be, but I guess you'll find out one way or another here. In reality,
Yeah.
though, yeah, there's a lot of books here. Exquisite Corpses, I think, is going to be super fun. I'm really excited for Michael Walsh, them being on the artwork, doing their thing, which we've really all come to enjoy over the last couple of years. Geiger, I
Yes.
mean, come on, like Geiger coming to blows here with Ash Arden, like that's going to be epic. That's going to be fantastic. So, a lot of bangers coming out here. We're going to be covering it right here on Ink and Insights next week as well. But guys, that does it for all the stuff that we got happening here. Jason, thank you so much for joining us this week, man. Dude, do us a favor here. First of all, tell us about the new title of your YouTube. Tell us about where we could find you, what you got coming out, what's going on.
Yeah. So I used to be DC Patrol. I still am, right? Like I think the social medias, it still stays there, but I've just changed the name to the Comic Patrol. It just feels less narrow, right? Because it's not just DC Comics. The DC is more of a personal thing, and since I liked comics, I kept that. But yeah, so now I'm the Comic Patrol. So the YouTube will start reflecting that new logo and stuff. Uh, yeah, so I'm on most of the socials. I think some of them, mostly on Threads, but and YouTube.
Dude, yeah, I loved seeing you pitching out the potential logo options that you were like. You just kept throwing them out there. I was addicted to Threads that day because I'm just like, give me another one, give me another one. Like these are so fun to be like watching and seeing like the creative process like kind of take place on that. That was really really fun to see. So
I appreciate that. I liked the idea of it being sort of a community thing, like helping me narrow it down. Like, I'll still make the final decisions, but I like. That's one of the things I like about social media is that we can come together and do this. We were talking about grommets and being disconnected from the internet and stuff, but I wouldn't know you guys if we didn't have it. I wouldn't be able to talk to all these awesome people out there on Threads and social medias and YouTube. So I thrive on this. I'm a hermit. I don't talk to people in my real life. Like I know no one in the city.
Yeah.
And so this is fun for me. And so I like that idea of just throwing it out and seeing what people thought and working towards it. So thank you very much. And I really appreciate you having me on. This was a lot of fun.
Dude, of course. Yeah. No, this was a blast, man. Thank you so much for joining us here. Stu, why don't you go ahead and take us home, man? Tell us all about Dr. Doom's fan club and all the other stuff, Ink and Insights.
Yeah, folks. Well, make sure you check out that Patreon, patreon.com/ink and insights. We have our second issue of the newsletter right around the corner. But yeah, you can find, all things Ink and Insights at the Patreon. We'll have previews of our upcoming content and also where to find us on the socials. So don't forget to check us out there. Make sure you're subscribed. It is free. But yeah, Dr. Doom's Fan Club on YouTube and Instagram. Again, the laptop has the blue screen of death, folks, but we are going to persevere. I should have new content sometime next week. Got a great video on Traction and Aha's Hawkeye on the way for you. For you guys, we're surrounded by short boxes, so don't forget to check that out. But yeah, and until next time, thanks for joining us, gang. DC, thanks for coming through. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned.